don't suppose it's too much to ask that my viewers, who, from what I understand, are mostly familiar with me for my Bibleman-related material, would also be familiar with Adventures in Odyssey, is it? Howdy everybody, and welcome to Harvey Media Reviews. So obviously this weekend is a weekend that a lot of people have been looking forward to for a very long time, the release of Batman vs. Superman. And so far the reviews have been a little bit mixed, but mostly coming across in the negative. What is my opinion? I haven't seen it. I decided a long time ago that I wasn't going to see the sequel of Man of Steel as long as the same people who made Man of Steel were still in charge. That's like rebooting the Transformers franchise and still having Michael Bay direct. Oh wait. But that's not really what I'm here to talk about. In talking about the hype surrounding this movie, I said that, essentially, DC Comics no longer has any testicles.
Because DC had balls. DC knew where to push the boundaries. As Bruce Timm said on one of the commentaries on one of the DVDs, sometimes you just have to go and ring that bell. And DC knew how to ring it.
It was a video that I made quite a while ago now, where I just kind of free associated and complained about how awesome DC used to be and how terrible they are now. And I think in doing so, because it was so free-floating and strange, I kind of missed the real problem with what DC is producing nowadays. I finally came upon the real problem in a conversation I recently had with my brother. We were talking about DC, and we were talking about it in relation to an old episode of a radio show called Adventures in Odyssey. For those of you who don't know, Adventures in Odyssey was a Christian-themed sitcom/drama show. The main plot of Adventures in Odyssey involves this old man named Mr. Whitaker, who owns an ice cream adventure and discovery emporium called Whit's End. It's an ice cream bar that also has lots of different activities, and Mr. Whitaker himself is a very jovial old man who loves kids, and he made the place to be a place where kids could be kids and explore and discover things and learn and have fun while also learning. It was a great place, but there's one episode where a competitive business opens up across town. It's a lot like Whit's End mixed with a gaming arcade and taking out the educational parts of the thing. It's called the Novacom Center, and Whit, he was called Whit by his friends, Whit got kind of depressed because people were going over to the new, cool, hip version of his idea. And he wanted to get the kids back, and he felt like he'd lost touch. He was a very old man. He was a World War II vet, so he felt like maybe he was losing touch with the kids. So he redesigned Whit's End and rebranded it as the WE. And at first it was really popular, at first. And then he started to realize the fact that it was so trendy and so hip and so modern made it so that it had lost the timelessness that Whit's End originally had. And it fell out of fashion very quickly. Just like the Novacom Center fell out of fashion very quickly because it was so hip and so modern. The kids just kind of moved on to the next big thing. You get the idea. Always trying to be part of the new trends and always trying to second guess yourself is sometimes a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to try new things. It's a bad thing to be so insecure in your own creativity and your own creation that you lose sight of what made that thing work. This is what I think is DC's real problem. Because DC Comics is myth. I don't mean to say that they don't exist, but what they created in Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman is indelible myth. It is burned into our collective subconscious. It is part of the pop culture mainframe, and I firmly believe that in 1,000 years, people will still remember Superman and Batman. They might not be as talked about as they are now, but I firmly believe that Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman are the new Hercules, the new Zeus, the new Thor, the ancient mythological Thor, not the Chris Hemsworth version. These figures are so important and so powerful, and DC owns their rights. You own the intellectual properties that have not only taken part in forming the society that you now live in, but will continue to form society into the future. Now here comes this little punk-ass kid named Marvel. Marvel is so cool. They are. Marvel is so cool. They came up with they looked at DC, they looked at the big dogs right here, they looked at this little guy, and they were like, this guy, I just don't relate to this guy. This guy, he's too big. Ironic. But he's just too big. I don't relate to him. Let's take him down a peg. Let's take him and maybe give him a problem. Superman automatically knows that with great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man has to be taught that. Marvel takes what DC does and deconstructs it. I'm not saying this to belittle Marvel. I'm saying this is a statement of fact. DC says, oh man, if people had superpowers, that'd be great. Marvel says if people had superpowers, everyone would hate them. So Marvel starts selling really well, and DC looks at what they're doing and says, oh man, we have to start being like them. In these movies, Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman, they have looked at what Marvel is doing, and they have gone out of their way to deconstruct their own characters. And this has happened multiple times. This is not the first time this has happened. Sometimes they have done better than other times. They did start to do this earlier when they did Smallville and they did Batman Begins and that whole trilogy. But I would argue that they did it better in those cases because while they did deconstruct the characters, they were still trying to deal with the characters as they are. DC has WE'd itself, for lack of a better phrase. They don't realize that they don't need to deconstruct Superman. They don't need to deconstruct Batman. They don't need to make these things edgy or cool or hip because they're already perfect. They're already so cool and so much cooler in a sense that is transcendental to pop culture itself than anything that they have come up with in these movies, that it seems a pointless exercise to even tell these stories. What is the point of telling a story about a Superman who isn't Superman or a Batman who kills people? It isn't that DC doesn't have testicles. It isn't that they're not willing to try new things. They clearly are. The problem is that they are missing the point in their explorations. They're searching to find why a wheel works instead of just letting the wheel work. Those are my thoughts on the state of the DC Universe as it stands today. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and sound off in the comments about what superheroes you think will be remembered for eons to come. That's a stupid question. What should I make my comment question, Kaylee? That's better, thank you. And sound off in the comments, what did you think of Batman vs. Superman? I'm Harvey Media, and I'll see you all later.